Hi, I'm DJ Ware. On this episode of the CyberGizmo, I'm going to be looking at a variant of Slackware called Zenwalk, right after this. So, Slackware is one of the earliest releases of Linux. It was based on Software Landing's version of Linux, and SLS was really the first that I know of. Now, maybe there was earlier versions, but those were the first complete versions of Linux that included more than just the kernel. And Slackware was named Slackware because there was a parody of a religion that was basically looking for the pursuit of slack, and that's Bob Dobbs, which was the savior of Slack. So anyway, if you want to read about that, go out to the wiki. You can learn all about it. But anyway, the reason why I chose Slackware today was because Slackware has a birthday coming up. And so, yeah, they've been around since July the 17th, and that's next week. So, of 1993, yeah, quite a while ago. So, Zenwalk Linux 15, what the heck is that? So, it originally was called Mini Slack, and it was created in 2005. It is a rolling release model, but it uses milestones. And milestones are kind of stable versions of the rolling release, so that it's a good place to pick one of those to install from. And of course, it is 100% based on Slackware Linux. However, they have a little bit different focus. So I hope I don't raise the ire of the Slackware folks, because that group is a very dedicated group of people that love the roots of Linux and love the way Linux was put together in its earlier days, and how it adhered very strictly to the Unix way of thinking and the Unix way of doing things. But Zenwalk kind of takes it a little bit step further in order to deliver a modern and a multi-purpose Linux distribution, which supports modern internet applications, multimedia, and has very good programming tools. So it makes a very good development environment as well. The system requirements, I'm listing these as the minimums. We'll take a look at how much memory it takes after we install it and how much disk, but I mean, they don't publish anything on at least not that I could find as far as system requirements, but it's certainly way less than a gig of RAM is needed and way less than 10 gig of disk. The minimum would be a VISA-based display, so you don't need the latest and greatest of hardware in order to run this. And yeah, happy birthday, Slackware. That was really the first. I think that was about the second one I tried. I did try SLS. SLS was very difficult in those days to get going, and Slackware, by comparison, was a whole lot easier to get running. So yeah, it holds to the Slackware design and philosophy. That would be one application per task. So you don't see bloated kinds of applications in Slackware. You do see very tight, simple things that are done. I mean, you hear programming models today that say a function should do one thing and one thing well. Well, that derived from Unix. That's been around a long time. And I suspect probably if you go back or even into the 50s, you'll probably find that mantra being touted even back by those designers. Many of those, sadly, are gone, and it'd be hard to ask them any questions today. But optimizations for specific instruction set architecture to increase execution speed, that's what it's all about, right? I want something small, light, and fast. So there were 5 main versions of Zenwalk. There's Zenwalk Standard, which is kind of the mainstream desktop and also a developer's platform. There's Zen Core and Zenwalk System that builds it's a distribution with build customizations in mind. You'll find this is basically a blueprint minimalist install, and if you want additional features and functions, you install and configure those yourself. Zen Live, which is the live CD design, that's what I will be using today to install this. There's also Zenwalk GNOME, which is the default desktop environment. Now, the default for the Zen Live is XFCE. Zenwalk OpenBox was the original. Well, OpenBox actually derives way back. Its look derives from Unix in the earlier versions of one of the first kinds of GUIs that I remember. But OpenBox is not any code base that came from Unix, of course. It just looks like it. But that has been discontinued. I mean, those kinds of GUIs hold. They hold a nostalgic place, and they do have. They were written for smaller machines, and so they are very, very tight and very quick designs. However, not to ignite the ire of the Slackware people, but OpenBox is a bygone era. Look and feel of that kind of design. The desktop environments today are so much better looking than OpenBox ever was, or even Sun CDE based distributions were as far and above anything like that. There are 3 spin-offs from Zenwalk, and Artis was one of those. It's discontinued, but that was a distribution that was written for pen testing and vulnerability analysis, and I suspect that's probably because of Kali, and also Parrot has pretty much robbed that. That kind of has kind of moved that group away from the Slackware-based systems over into the Debian-based ones. Slamp, which is a version for home server distributions. ZenCafe is an Indonesian distro designed for internet cafes. So there are not as many distributions that that derive their roots from Slackware. Originally SUSE was derived from Slackware. And also, Debian has its roots in both SLS and Slackware. And of course, people just say Debian is the marker now and we move forward. But really, Debian did draw a lot of code based from Slack and from SLS. It is 100% compatible with Slackware. So if you're looking for a manual, go to Slackware because it works exactly the same, looks exactly the same. So what I'm going to do is attempt to install this on VirtManager. Why am I not using Proxmox today? Well, I have Proxmox taken down temporarily. I'm doing some upgrades to the hardware. So, and of course, my hardware build here on my desk is I'm still using that to teach the class on hardening. So, I don't want to disturb that environment. I would probably end up with it not left in the same position it was, and so I will continue with that next week. So let me go down and we'll switch into full screen. And I'll go ahead and, as always, just kind of slide that off the screen. Get rid of that. Okay. So as you remember, VirtManager looks like this. So I have a pre-built one, but that's not what we're going to do. We're going to build this together. So I have my Zenwalk, and you remember the way I did this was through the downloads, and then chose that. Now I've added the downloads repository to my default storage volumes. So we'll go ahead and choose that. Now you'll have to click this off on yours, but there isn't a Slackware, so I guess generic or generic would probably be okay to start with that. And I'm going to give this 4 gig, but it won't need it. And I'll give it 2 cores. I'll just leave it at 20 gig. It doesn't take a lot of disk. So, and then let's see, we'll call this Zenwalk 2. So it doesn't complain about there already being one. Now I don't have to do any special configuration here for this. We can just get it started. Now I'm going to change my view to always so we can scale this up. So hopefully you'll be able to see that a little bit. Let me oh, well, I guess I've been chewing up too much disk space. So hang on while I go fix that. Okay, I think I got that all taken care of. So we're ready to go here. So I'm going to go ahead and press enter to get this going. And then it's asking me if I have a non-US keyboard, I could stop and then get the list and then pick from it since mine's US. So just hit enter. And now it's telling me some information. I need one or more partitions, and it's recommended that I create a swap, which I'll do that. And then blah, blah, blah. Okay, so we'll log in as root. And so it's giving me a choice here between CF disk and F disk. Well, I guess I should make sure that I know which drive it is. SDA. Okay, so let's get the information. I'm going to change my label type to GPT for this, not MS-DOS. And then I will do a new partition. This is partition 1, starting at 2048, and then I'll make this one a 2 gig partition. And then I'll have to change my type on it, and I believe that is a 19. Yeah, on this one. So, so then I'll add my next partition, which will be my full root. Now, normally, I would probably, if I was doing this and I wanted to save this on hardware, of course, I would probably, again, split this out. So it's all, my var was in its own partition, my temp, and my home and my root. So I probably would set up a number of partitions here for this. But let's see what we got here. So I've got a 2 gig Linux swap and an 18 gig Linux file system. So I'm going to write that out. And I'm done with that part. So I'm ready to start the setup. And I can read the help file if I want. I can change my keyboard map. I can set up my swap partition, which I need to do. Yep, that's the one I created. And do I want to check this for bad blocks? Well, now, yeah, in the old days, you definitely wanted to do that with some of the IDE drives because, yes, they did ship with bad blocks, and that was a fairly common occurrence. But for this, nah, probably don't need to do that. And then, let's see, partition holding list from your root partition. Okay, select that. Now, typically, for Slack, I would choose XFS, mainly because that was beholden to the Silicon Graphics machines. But, I mean, since the spirit of this, of Zenwalk is modern, I will use the XT4. Yeah, I have a CD, and we'll go ahead. Now, I could manually specify the device name, but I already know what that is. It's SR0. I did the LS block, so it was right there. And then, what do I want? Do I want it? Yeah, this is fine. That's fine. Full install recommended. Now, if I was a true Slackware user, I would probably come down here and I would go through and I would choose exactly what packages I needed. But for today, we're just trying to get to this so that we can do have a look at it. And this will probably take some time, but I don't want to just, I guess I'll come back. It will take a bit, so unless you want to listen to me just babble for 5 or 6 minutes. I'll be right back. Okay, so we're done with the install. And one thing I was going to mention, I forgot to, was if you ever notice some of the early logos for Slackware, you'll notice the Tux logo holding a pipe. That came from Bob Dobbs. So if you're wondering where that came from, that's where it came from. So anyway, so again, here, if I was doing this as a Slack user, I would choose Expert and go through this. But Lilo is not in any. Lilo was, of course, the original Linux loader, and the bootloader before that preceded Grub, and it's kind of an archaic bootloader today, but it still works. Yes, it most certainly will still work. But I don't need to do anything specific to it, so I'm just gonna choose this. I can choose the standard Linux console, or I can go down and choose Visa. For this, I'm gonna take the maximum size Visa, and that's mainly to get more real estate on the screen. I don't have any extra parameters I need to install. I will, again, if I was doing this with the Unix way, I would use a super block. Because again, we are using a kind of a modern approach to this, I'll install a master boot record to do this. So yeah, you don't have a super block with XFS, so that wouldn't work. Also, a lot of the early Linux systems used to use the bootloaders on floppies, and then would boot there, and then would map the hard drive to them. Hey, if you notice any of the any of the ARM releases today, they all boot off the SD card, but then you can shim in an SSD or an NVMe or whatever underneath of it to run. So you basically boot off the SD card and then run off of a faster media. So it's not unusual. So we'll take the MBR. I'm sorry to the Slackware users for that. Let's see. Yeah, I know about them. I know how they are. And I understand that perfectly. I mean, the whole purpose is to learn how things work. And the only way you're ever going to learn that is if you take the time and delve into it. Slackware has very good documentation on how to do everything. So, I mean, yeah, you could do the same thing with Arch, of course, most definitely. But this is kind of a piece of history. So, hard work is set to local time. Yep, and I'm in the central zone. No. In this case, I'm going to hold to the tradition. Now, that Elvis was never my favorite editor. It's a traditional in Unix. Now they call it, say, EX. In Unix, the original editor was ed, and that was a line editor. Very painful to use that one. And then VI came from the Berkeley software distribution, and they were the ones that actually moved VI in. So I'm going to choose a classic VI because there's just more things. Quite honestly, there's more commands that you can do in the normal VI or the classic VI than you can in Vim. Vim has a lot more powerful features as far as being able to manage different types of programs. But yeah, and there are some good improvements in Vim, but they remove some of the things that I always like to use in the classic VI. It's just a matter of choice. So that's what I'm going to be choosing. I probably won't be demonstrating any of those today. I just want to see if I can get this to work. I did get it to work once. Let's make sure. So my user is 1,000, group is 100, using bash, that's fine. All right, I've done that. Now I'm ready to exit Zenwalk, and this should reboot it. And we'll see if I did this right. Or did I make a mistake? So this is Lilo. And Lilo, unlike, well, it'll eventually count down in a minute, 50 seconds, but I'm not going to wait for that before it boots. I'll just go ahead and do this. I didn't check now that, I don't know if you remember the classic, how many, you got as many tuxes as you had cores in your machine. But I didn't notice if that tux was holding the pipe or not. Okay, so we're in with the Visa connection. So the first thing I need to go find is settings, and I guess we'll go into the settings manager. This is XFCE 4.14. And let's see, let's go to the display. I think I'll make this my usual 1490. That way I still have access to my bars, and I don't have to go full screen. So we'll do that, and then let's see if I don't know if I can make this any. Oops, did I do something? I must have. I must have said no. Keep, that's what we want. There we go. All right, so the next thing I need is a terminal. And as you'll notice, yeah, it's very pretty. Yeah, it's very pretty. Let's see, I need a term. And I guess we'll go with XFCE. Oh dear, it's clear. Well, we'll fix that. If you like that, be my guest. I find that distracting with the background showing through. So, but again, it's all about choice, not criticizing your choices. But I am going to make mine solid. And then I don't think this will matter. I think the terminal emulator is Xterm 256. So this will be fine. Let's see, I could probably make that just a little bit bigger. There we go. So I guess first, yeah, it's definitely Xterm. Yep. Yep. Okay, so I guess the first thing we need to do is to do a uname. And we have a pretty modern kernel, 5.4.50. So this will run on newer hardware. So that's a good thing. I suspect, yeah, it's based on Slackware, of course. On 14.2. Now 14.2, that goes back to 2016, I think. So yeah, Slackware has a 2020 version, but you know they run kind of they have a rolling release as well, and then they do these milestone builds every once in a while so that you can have these placeholders that you go to, and I'm pretty sure that Tumbleweed is pretty similar in that same vein on how they do things too in SUSE. Let me see. So the first thing, here's the first surprise for you. No systemd. So you won't find systemd on Slackware. You will find, like if I had gone through some of on the pages, I could have chosen which init manager I wanted to use, but yeah, it's init. So this is returning back to the days of the RC. So you had different run controls, run levels, and I think these are mapped somewhere else now. But yeah, so 1 would be single user, and 3 would be multi-user, 4 would be multi-user with a graphical user interface, and then these others are mapped on however you want. And then you can start whatever modules you want for those specific things that you want. So Yeah, this works a lot different than System D, and it doesn't take over your entire system, but it is an old approach. So, yeah, be that as it may, it is an old approach. So anyway, I'm not going to criticize it. It is what it is. So let's see, what else do we want to do here? So I guess the first thing we want to do is see if we have HTOP. Yeah, 371 meg in use out of 3.84 gig. Did not need to give it that much memory. I could easily back this down to 1 gig and be running comfortably. 73 tasks running, 106 threads. It's not a huge footprint, and of course I have my swap file, which I won't use, not with that much memory being used at the moment. Let's see. So it's let's see how much disk it's taking. 5.8 gig in use. Not a lot, not in comparison to some of the other systems today, not very much at all. So let's get installed. Yep. I have to. I wonder if Linus will understand this older stuff. It might. It definitely is not going to be fine in System D. Oh, I guess I have to be sudo. Well, I can't be sudo, so I'll just copy this because I haven't set it up. You do have to set all that up. Doesn't come pre-configured for you. I must have chopped it. I thought I did. I thought I did chop it. That's all right. We'll get it. I need a username to download? Really? Oh. Okay. All right. So I won't be able to test this today. I destroyed my username on GitHub. Let's see. What else do we have here? Let me... Oh, one thing you need to do is get Slack package. Yeah. Your fingers are off my home keys. You'll need to enable a mirror. And for the US, they're down here. Let's see, what do I have near me? I probably could go use Utah. That's probably closer than some of those others. All right, so I'm trying to remember. I'm so rusty. I think it's update. Yep. Yep. Okay, so it's going to update my packages. Now, one thing that Zenwalk uses is it uses FlatHubs as its default package manager. So if you're using the GUI, it's going to take you out to FlatHubs, so to the FlatHub, and then you can download your favorite software there. So it is modern. It definitely is modern. So we've updated this, I suppose. Is Glances out here? No. I did notice one thing, though. I don't know why we're still supporting that. Yeah, I know Python 3's out here too, but I mean, they dropped it. I mean, they're not updating it. I would remove that personally. I would remove that package. I know there's still some software that's around that uses Python 2, but you know, you could wait until you're old and gray before some of these developers will do anything to update their software. And they've had plenty of notice that two was going to go away. But anyway, enough of that. So I have that. Let me see. Slack package install. I don't know if it's called glances. Match the pattern. Okay. It's probably Python glances. I don't know how well the search works anymore. I haven't used this in years. Yeah, it doesn't use it uses an exact match. So I would have to list them and find it myself. Okay, so let's go back and take a look. Let me get out of the terminal mode here. I'm kind of done with that, I think. And we'll just go see what we have here. We'd probably modify this. So there's all the packages. For accessories, we have your calculator, graphical disk map, KeyPass, a couple of password managers, sensor viewer. I wonder if that's temperature. Yep. Okay. Let's see, we're in accessories. Task Manager, Thunar, EncryptFS. So there is a bug that I talked about earlier. I think it was last week. There is a bug in EncryptFS where if you log out, it does not re-encrypt. So I don't know what the status of that is. I don't know if it's been fixed. I'm going to bet probably has been. Okay, GIMP. Bye-bye. I'd probably remove that. There's ZenMap. That's nice. Development, we have CMake, Gearney, Glade, QI Assistant. Internet, I did that one. Multimedia, Easy Tag, NPV, Spec. Zenwalk. That's probably to their site. Yep. So, yeah, if you want to download this, you go to zenwalk.org to do that. And then for the documentation to install it, go to Slackware, because it installs exactly the same. From what I could see, it did. Okay, it looks like this is Chromium. So the default browser is Chromium. Then in system, we have, I can play with, oh no, this is just showing me my, interesting. Okay. I don't think that was intentional. Host and domain tool, HTOP, login window, LS hardware, print settings, services. Yeah, so it has just a really simple panel to start and stop services, which is fine. It's fine. It works. It's Tor. Didn't see Tor browser. Yep. Settings, Thunar, XFCE terminal. So I don't see, I didn't see any indication of, like a package manager. So let's look in here and see what we found. Well, there's the flat hub. So, okay, there you go. So it does support flat packs, and then you can go out and install those and run them if you want. Pick and choose the ones that you want. So very nice. Nice update to what Slackware has, at least in my opinion. I don't see any problem with this whatsoever. I'm going to go ahead and move my stuff back. Yeah. The Slackware was the second release of Linux that I ever tried. I did play with SLS. I think it was on either a 386 or a 486. But, man, it was not easy to get SLS working. I mean, especially if if you put your machine together yourself and you're trying to get things to work, you talk about your driver problems. I mean, I had a network card that I think it was a 3-com, and of course the model number I had a 3-com wasn't supported by the Linux kernel at the time, and so I kind of had it working, but it kept shifting bit rates on me. So. Yeah, it wasn't a fun time getting stuff to work back then on SLS. But when Slackware came out, it got a lot easier because Slackware, believe it or not, did things a lot more intelligently and wasn't as error prone as SLS was. SLS was unforgiving. I mean, I don't know how many times I saw the black screen of death from Linux. That's what we called it, when you'd see the kernel panic, and then boom, down it would go. So eventually that got better as time progressed. But in the early days, you got used to not being able to boot, not having the right sectors, having a drive that had bad sectors on it, and you didn't discover them, and Linux wrote something to it, and then it couldn't find it, and then you would crash. Yeah, those were not the good old days of Linux. So I didn't install this as a true Slackware user. Maybe I should come back and do that and use the expert options and go through that at some time. But there is documentation on the Slackware site, so if you want to do that, be my guest. Again, I find that tedious today. I mean, I've done that, but if that's novel for you and you'd like to try it, hey, go for it. It's a good way to learn Linux. Let's see. I like it. It's simple. It's got the modern features in it. I like the fact that they are supporting flat hubs, flat packs, and it's a refreshing release on Slackware. And it's not to say that Slackware is old and out of date. It's not. Slackware is still heavily used. I'll bet when I put up this video, I'll probably get a lot of comments from those guys because they've been around a lot longer than me, and their beards are a lot grayer than mine. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this today, and happy birthday, Slackware. And I know it's a week early, but hope to see you all again real soon. And as always, bye for now.